All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Drawing for Tattooers on Reinventing the Tattoo Network. I've got Kyle Olson with me today. Hey, Kyle, how you doing, man?
Doing good. How about you, James?
I'm doing good. I'm just gonna get warmed up here. So I'm gonna actually start off. Let's start off with a line, like a flat line. We can do better than that. Let's. Okay, we're warming up. Just get over it. All right. So anyway, I can't stand it. I gotta have that. Okay. All right. Yeah. So a line. If you're using your drawing tablet, Procreate, of course you know that little secret, right? You hold it and you hold your pencil down, and it makes a very linear line. You could use a ruler, right? If you are drawing on paper. Anyway, I'm just going to start with some ellipses because I like to remember those. Oh my god. Okay. All right. I am like really focusing on just getting the blood pumping, right? I'm just moving my arm actually in this case. I think when we're sketching, we're going to use our wrists a lot. Oh my god. Okay. Get a text message. Ah, thank you. All right, so is it are you watching my sins here? Oh my god. Maybe just like go a little faster. Maybe that'll be good, like make it better. I don't know. I've been doing this for a long time. I don't think they're this is how I make them. Sorry, I'm taking it seriously. Oh my god. All right, whatever. Let's go the other way. And I'm really gonna try to. And I'm using this really thin pencil today. So yeah, like I'm saying, we're gonna use our wrists a lot while we're sketching, doing those fine motor movements, as it were. Right? How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16. All right, we got a ways to go. Let's keep warming up, everybody. So, hey, Amber, good morning. Great to see you.
Good morning. How are you?
Morning, Amber.
Doing well. I'm just getting warmed up here with the Drawing for Tattooers gang. Oh, my God. Well,
I'm
you know
warming
what?
my body up.
I think that, like, if you love these little failures, then one day you'll be unstoppable, maybe. I don't know. What's up? Yeah. Yeah, just getting warmed up still, everybody. Take your time. Take your time. What's the rush? It's Monday morning.
That it is.
Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Take your time. Get thoroughly warmed up. Oh. Well, I enjoy it. I enjoy this sort of painful experience. I think that if you, again, you're kind of just allowing yourself to be loose, loosen up a little bit, lighten up a little bit, as it were. You're really going to be ready, right? Be prepared when the time comes for like exactitude, right? And then, of course, too, there might be something really valuable that you find in just sort of having like a sort of a loose, sketchy approach.
Yeah, even before I start tattooing, like if I didn't have to draw the tattoo and I already have the stencil made, I
Mhm.
like to just loosen up my hand with some circles on paper and crazy eights, and just to get the muscles warmed up.
Well, I remember Kyle actually was leading us in warm-ups, and he started just drawing some awesome skulls and stuff. So
Mhm.
I think there's also, you might end up sort of finding that there's, some kind of image that starts to emerge out of all of this madness. All right, okay, I'm feeling I'm feeling warmed up.
Yeah,
Anyway, good morning.
my comfort image is a tree. I'm always sketching trees to warm up.
That's excellent. Well, hey everybody, if you're out there and you're like doing warm-ups, let us know in the chat. What do you do for warm-ups? I think that's always something I'm interested in learning more about. What works for you? What is it that helps get you going? So Amber, you like to draw trees and sketch them out.
Yeah,
You like
when
to
I
draw.
don't know what to draw, I always wind up resorting to a tree
Excellent.
because it's like I love drawing trees because you can't make a mistake when you draw a tree because they're so organic and they're awesome.
There's a lot of freedom with that for sure. I'm gonna stretch, right? This is something that we try to do every time before we get working, right? Before we get we're gonna get warmed up, right? We warm up the muscles, and then we're also gonna stretch out, right? So we're gonna stretch our hands. So I'm gonna extend my arm, right? And I'm gonna
Oh,
pull back here, right? I really wanna
yeah, I
stretch
can
out my
tell I'm stiff
forearm
because I can
muscles.
feel it back here.
I want to stretch. Just hold it don't overdo it. If it hurts, you're doing it wrong, right? But it shouldn't feel comfortable. I mean, it should be a little bit uncomfortable, right?
It should hurt good, not bad.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good way to put it. Just stretch. You have to take care of yourself. I really think this is true. You're gonna get uh, more longevity, super important. But also, you may very well find that the quality is a little bit higher, right? Especially, I know that I can get all tight. You know what I mean? I'm tattooing, and it's like I just, I'm all tensed up, and I'm just like,
Mm.
you're zeroed in, right? You're
Well, my
focused.
chiropractor loves me.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, I know Tattooer Health Club. Tattooer Health Club is actually a pretty cool resource for tattoo artists. So they're not sponsored by us, but I know Jordan. He's a very nice person, very knowledgeable, and he focuses on how to help tattoo artists with their aching joints, right? Your back,
Mm.
arms, and your wrists and stuff. We don't want to get carpal tunnel. We want
Yeah,
to be able
that's
to
definitely
have
an
long.
occupational marker of tattoos.
So it's important. Anyway, so I stretched out. You could repeat, right? You could repeat this. You can push the hands together again. I think you want to feel it here in your deltoids and your pectoralis, right? So you're push against. You want to feel both those spots, and really, again, you're sort of loose. You're going to loosen it up. I think that when you're drawing, you're using, you know, you're eventually going to use your whole body,
Mm.
right? You're really going to use your whole body, but you have to be mindful of all the muscles that are really like helping you operate
Yeah,
your
when I
arm
get
as
my
well.
shoulders readjusted, I can feel it in my hands. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah,
putting them back into alignment takes the fatigue off of my hands and the stress off of those ligaments.
yeah. I think another important point is that when we're feeling fatigue in a particular area, it might very well be that we actually need to exercise the muscle that is counter to that, right? There might be other muscles uh, that would help you, take some of the stress off of those stressful areas, right? So just focusing on stretching and stuff is not enough. It's very complicated. So we do need to help. We need to help each other out with information, and definitely just sort of having at least this minimal practice of getting warmed up, so warming up your body, warming up your mind, as it were, and then stretching a little bit. It's going to help you a lot. I think it helps me feel a little bit better, just to be honest.
Yes.
Slightly better attitude. So anyway, that is the warm up portion, and I'm so excited for today because we're really going to focus on drawing. We're going to read a little bit. So if you're new here, we like to read a little bit. Sometimes we have this long discussion, but today we're really going to be focused on drawing. So I'll have a reference up, and if you want to draw along, feel free. But I wanted to just to talk to you both a little bit about this. Do you ever copy the work of other people? Right? Or what do you feel? How do you feel about that? Like copying?
That's kind of how, I mean, I didn't go to art school. Obviously, I took a different route, not a baby. But a lot of the ways I've learned techniques is by trying to replicate the masters and other people's work. By trying to figure out how they did it and get a similar result. It's kind of informed my artwork.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really healthy way of looking at it. You're not necessarily trying to present their work as your own work.
Yeah.
Kyle, how about you?
I guess it really depends on like what I'm trying to accomplish. Like if it's something that I've never drawn before, and I really like and admire the style of somebody else, like I'll go through and like try to draw. I'll draw the image and try to understand like what are the main characteristics that make it aesthetically pleasing to me. So that way I'm not just like replicating somebody else's work all the time. I'm just trying to understand like what are the key characteristics of like say like a neo-traditional flower and stuff like that. Like what makes this look good. So that way I can take those characteristics and implement them into my own designs of said flower. Just so I'm not like replicating somebody else's work over and over again. Um, I try to break it down. I don't always succeed, of course, because everybody draws a bit differently, man. So that's kind of how I handle it.
Hmm. I definitely get where you're coming from. James Gurney once said in books that we're going to copy after others to learn more about ourselves. And so I think that's totally valid. We don't want to become someone else, but we do admire others. There are others that like have made work that we really just feel something when we see it. I don't think you have to copy just everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
You might actually love a particular kind of artwork and you never have to make it.
Yeah.
In fact, I think that's important. I think that's really important. That it's not
Mm-hmm.
You're not trying to make every single style that there's something about it that you really relate to. But there's hopefully there you feel a calling towards some type of work. And that might be somewhat broad, and you'll narrow it down as you progress. So anyway, I wanted to go ahead and I'm going to read this chapter. This is a very, very short chapter. And then we're going to do some drawing. And so I hope if you're out there, you want to draw along with us. We'd love to have you. We got Creature in the comments. Hey, Creature, great to see you in the comments. Let's share. Let's share this. Very good. Maybe this one. Share, please. Working on it, gang. Right here. excellent. Baby, you've seen this plate before, especially if you watched the episode that we did on the Bard, Charles Bard's drawing book. Again, you can find that in the replays on Reinventing YouTube channel. So let's see if we can't get into this chapter a bit. So let me get my screens organized here, everybody. Thank you for your patience. Okay. So this is I should probably share this. This is from the book, The Classical Drawing Atelier by Juliette Aristides. It's a fantastic book. What is an atelier, you may ask? It's a drawing school, and it's very classical way of going about like the education of drawing. Juliette Aristides is a master draftsman, and very consummate painter and educator. So there's a series of books that are very cool. You can find out more by scanning this little QR code that we're popping up, and check out some of the stuff if you're interested in this type of education. So Juliette Aristides. All right, so okay, so back to this reading. So this is chapter 6 of the book, Learning from the Past. We start off with a quote here. On whom then can the artist rely? Or who shall show him the path that leads to excellence? The answer is obvious. Those great masters who have traveled the same road with success are the most likely to conduct others. This is from Sir Joshua Reynolds. He wrote a book, very historical art book, but it's a neat quote, and I think it really kind of talks about the stuff we were just discussing, right? Like, we admire others, we look up to them. How are we going to find ourselves, right? Through working after them, looking after what it is that they've already made. Okay, so into the book here. The practice of master copying used to be an intrinsic part of an artist's education, one that he often continued throughout his career. Paul Cézanne, quoting Thomas Couture, said, "Keep good company. Go to the Louvre." The Louvre is the museum in Paris. It's a very famous museum. The goal of a master copy exercise was to duplicate either exactly or in essence an individual work. Through the procedure of master copying, the student could commune with greatness and identify the master's modes of representation, methods, and ways of problem solving. In the preceding chapters, we looked at the building blocks of the artist's vocabulary: design, line, value, and form. Now we will look at application. If one were studying writing, one would learn the basic framework of writing, such things as spelling, grammar, and composition. The next question might be one of style and content. By reading great literature with a critical eye, the student gains insight into how great writers compose their masterpieces. Each work becomes a beacon of sorts, a guide and an encouragement, from one who has arrived to one still traveling. In art, through copying the work of a master, a student is inspired and pushed beyond his current level of ability. And that's interesting. It's there's this idea of one who has arrived, but of course, a little earlier on, there was this example of kind of throughout your career. So, perhaps one has arrived like after they're dead. You know what I mean? Maybe that's a way to think of it. But of course, there are people who have had experienced lots of success, or have had this really long career and they've learned much. So I would say we certainly would have that notion, right? That there are people who've got it all together. They really know what they're doing, so on and so forth. But us as individuals, it's probably better to always keep that attitude that we're always going to be developing, even to the very end, right? We're always developing. Just a thought on that. Okay, so the history of master copying. The process of directly copying other artists' work has routine in the Middle Ages, where each workshop had its own model book of patterns and drawings of such things as figures, drapery, animals, and plants. However, Renaissance artists revolutionized the concept of copying and established the traditions that we revere today. Rather than copy out model books, Renaissance artists turned to the masterworks created during the height of ancient Greece and Roman civilizations and intently studied those creations in order to become proficient at their craft. They also copied each other. Michelangelo copied Giotto, Leonardo da Vinci copied Michelangelo, and so on. They viewed study of masters as a gateway to studying nature, and they believed that they should be done in tandem, right? So yeah, you have to draw from life, like the source, right? You look at the world of appearance and you see things that you like, you draw that. But looking at the work of other people, we see how they have interpreted nature or have manipulated what you would see, right, to come up with something very imaginative, as it were. And doing this in tandem, I think I agree with it. I think that's actually very healthy sort of way to go about it. Okay, continuing. The Florentine artist, Cimini, recommended that students find all the best works created by master artists and study them intently. As so eloquently stated in his book, The Craftsman's Handbook, he said, "You will find, if nature has granted you any imagination at all, that you will eventually acquire a style individual to yourself, and it cannot help being good, because your hand and your mind, being always accustomed to gather flowers, would ill know how to pluck thorns." Unquote. So the practice of creating master copies continued until it reached its zenith of activity in the 19th century. It became so popular it was considered an art form in its own right, generating commissions in the thousands, from the Musée des Etudes to the Musée des Capes. I don't know, copies. I don't know French. Anyway, in fact, despite their otherwise incomparable outlooks, the practice united academic artists, realists, romanticists, impressionists, because they all had a deep desire to connect with the past. And so we have this really beautiful study. Michelangelo drapes, somebody has copied. Interesting, right? Like, this likely could have been a study that Michelangelo did, and somebody studying his study, and so on and so forth. It's like a meme, right? It's sort of a meme in a way. Here we go. Artists as varied as Eugene Delacroix, Theodore Géricault, Jean-Augustin Dominique Ang, Jean Singer Sargent, Henri Fontaine-Latour, Edgar Degas, Edward Monet, and Paul Cézanne all copied throughout their careers. Degas observed that no art was less spontaneous than mine. What I do is the result of reflection and study of the great masters of inspiration, spontaneity, and temperament. Even as art changed, the practice of master copying remained relevant and continued into the 12th century, with such unlikely practitioners as Henri Matisse and Pablo Picasso. What changed was the works that they chose to copy and the methods they employed. The practice of master copying moved away from an interest in technique and onto the expressive qualities of a work of art. Artists freely interpreted the master works to suit their own needs. The value of copying. This practice of master copying has not stayed in the past. André Lehoit said, "In art, there is no progress, only discovery, illuminated by methods as old as the world itself. By looking to the accomplishments of artists who came before us, we can have a dialogue with the past and speed our artistic journey. There is no better place to start than with the practice of copying masterworks." Much artistic training these days, atelier training aside, is centered on the student's personal creative vision. With this cultural backdrop, it can be difficult for the contemporary mind to understand the role and practice of copying. To do so, it can be helpful to compare the process of learning how to make art with the process of learning a foreign language. The goal of pursuing a foreign language is to communicate with others. By growing up in a home where language is spoken, a child learns to speak. This process is fluid and often somewhat unconscious. However, when an adult wants to learn a second language, the process is generally much more formalized. Through imitation, immersion, and the adult student is able to gain command of a foreign tongue. Trying to be creative with a language before it is mastered would result in many embarrassing episodes for the beginning student. Making copies of work by either masters allows students to draw from a static two-dimensional subject, gaining dexterity in the handling of a medium, and hands-on understanding of how master artists use line, value, and form to their advantage in their work. Emulation in search of academic enlightenment has been recognized for centuries as a natural part of artistic learning process. The practice of executing master copies forms an important part of contemporary atelier curriculum. As interest in the ancient art of picture making increases, so too does the interest in the practices that helped create these great works. As in the days of the old European workshops, students once again are copying excellent drawings done by masters in their field. Doing these copies cultivates their aesthetic sense and gives them an intimate understanding of how different masters transformed life into art. By studying the great drawings of the past, the artists of today are participating in an historical tradition, having a dialogue with master artists who came before them. I want to change this. I want to change this ticker. Do that one. No, this one. Yeah. Thanks. Okay. And here we can see this is a copy. Oh my goodness. Glitch. All right. Here we can see a copy. This is by the author of this book. She's copying after Rubens. And again, a study, but there's something expressive, gestural about working the study. What was the master who you're copying? What were they going for? What was it what makes this so alive, as it were? And so again, we're seeing the author of this book is also sort of putting this into practice, which is nice to see. Okay, we're almost done with this chapter, and then we'll get on with some drawings. So, copying versus constructing. The dynamic relationship found in life are hidden under the surface. Careful observation is required to determine their pattern and organization. By identifying what is superfluous and what is structural, the artist can create a drawing that captures the power and beauty of life. Edgar Degas declared that picture making requires as much trickery and conniving as the perpetration of a crime. Rather than jumping in with both feet first, lost my place. Rather than jumping in with both feet and hoping that all the small pieces will eventually create a feeling of order and power, the artist must envision, plan, and orchestrate both the big picture and small details. The same principle applies when copying a masterwork. In order to successfully replicate the work of a master, an artist needs to investigate the motives and the actions that led to the original action, what Degas describes as the crime. In other words, the copier must study how the original work was constructed, determine which elements set the theme and the tone, and identify where timeless principles of good design, sound technique have been used to translate what is observed in nature into a masterful drawing. Let's see. Got some in the chat. Yeah, so Good morning from Massachusetts. Hey, good morning from Massachusetts. And then Tattoo Now says another masshole. Nice. That must be short for Massachusettsian. How do you say that? Is it Massachusettsites or Massachusettsian? A person of Massachusetts.
Yeah.
It's great to have you. Thank you for joining us. And then of course, thank you, Tattoo Now. It's great to see you in the chat. What do you think about this, guys? This whole idea, a work of art is like the perpetration of a crime. It takes a lot of conniving. It takes a lot of
Yeah, because most art is, well, most simple art is two-dimensional. Happens on one flat surface. But the crime is tricking the eye into seeing a three-dimensional image.
Yeah, that definitely could be a part of it. I do think that it is about space in some way, because you could have a triangle over here and a circle over there, right? And that's, that could be it. But there's definitely some amount of distance. I mean, they could overlap,
Yeah.
right? But there's
It's
something.
also a trick of color, though. Because if you think about it, everything that you think is a color isn't really a color. It's just reflecting back a specific color of light. So you're kind of tricking the brain into thinking the thing you're seeing is that color when it isn't. It's just reflecting back a different wavelength of light than the other things on the canvas.
And then, aren't we also tricking people into feeling something, hopefully? Again, there's some kind of, you were right, Amber. I think that you're totally right that there's the technical stuff that we are really concerned about, rightfully so. But again, like with art, there's something that feels like it's more than what's in it, which is a weird thing to say. It's a weird thing to think. It is easier, I feel like, to just experience it. But there's something about, you've made this creation, if you like. You've composed it, and then all of a sudden it's starting to generate something with others. It's generative. People feel something.
It creates an energy.
Right? They could be upset with it, or they could find beauty, so on and so forth. Those may not be so different, but yeah, I think it is interesting too, that in a way you could be sort of like loving the truth, but exploring it or like pursuing it through this trickery. Right?
Yeah,
it's interesting. I find it very interesting.
all art is an illusion.
That is certainly true, but also people would say that's not art. Certainly, that's something that people do say. I guess I would argue, like, it begs the question, like, well, then what is art, right? If you can say what it isn't, then what is it? So it is that can be a tricky.
The argument of what is or isn't art has been going on since cave paintings. So I don't think any of us are going to actually answer that question. I think the question just informs the art more.
It's fascinating.
And the pushing of those boundaries.
Certainly, there is something to crafting something. Right? You could be a craftsman, right? You could be a craftsperson, somebody who is very expert at replicating stuff. Like we're talking about master copying. Like if you were just copying people, it may not be art anymore, right? Like because you're just making this thing, and it starts to have a use, right? It's not just this.
I think that might be the difference between tattooists and tattoo artists too. Because there's plenty of good tattooists out there that can replicate any image you put in front of them with a tattoo machine and
Right.
scan and ink.
Well,
But they're
the art
not
might be located
necessarily
somewhere
good at
else.
composing their own images.
Right. Well, the art might be located somewhere else, I suppose.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But there's definitely something about like this squandering of a resource. There's something about it that's really important. It's like a sacrifice that happens. Your time, the materials, something like this that's important in this making. Again, it can be. It doesn't necessarily have to be. Doesn't have to take a long time.
Yeah, even
Really,
replicating
really
takes
profound
talent.
art can be very immediate and can happen. It doesn't have to be documented. You might just witness something that's actually really profound or a great work of art, if you like. But anyway, I don't want to digress too much. Just it comes up, right? It definitely it bubbles up, right? As you're thinking about these mystery, right? Again, art seems so mundane. It's this everyday stuff. But if you actually start to think about it, it really can become quite an enigma, as it were. So, right. So let's continue. We'll jump down here to this section, right? The greatest imitation is not the greatest art. Today, people commonly think of representational artists as human cameras, painstakingly copying each detail as it hits the eye with the goal of creating an image that looks like a photo. For such a goal noted, it would not produce art. Transforming life into art requires a careful translation and refinement. I think that really is just saying that in a way you're like a filter, right? You're like taking in information and it is like it's passing through you. You're sublating it, if you will, and you're making something else to go on. Surface details may obscure as much as they reveal about the complex visual relationships we observe. Many aspects of life seem to defy ready translation into art because of their subtlety and complexity, while other aspects are just as hard to translate because they are so apparently unartistic, ordinary to chaotic. While the gap between life and art is immense, master artists are able to bridge that gap by looking beyond the surface seen by the eye to find the beautiful in the mundane, and by skillfully separating the surface details from essential structure of the object in order to present us with a distilled reality. Life does not often appear in its ideal form. The amount of knowledge and skill used to execute a brilliant work of art is breathtaking. The artist must simplify design and construct the reality that she is looking at in order to convey it as she has seen it. And there's an important point there. Slavoj Žižek in the book The Sublime Object of Ideology mentions this as a Hegelian point that sometimes when we see an object, we see a thing, we see too much in it. And it actually takes a lot of discipline and skill and learning in order to see that essential structure beneath. This is definitely not about art, or not about making images like we're talking about now, but it is a nice interdisciplinary parallel. So again, that idea, we don't want to get lost on the surface. We want to build a structure, and then of course there will be really beautiful surface details that will be supported by the underlying structure that we have located and that we have constructed. So it takes a long time. You have to look at life for a long time until you develop this sort of X-ray vision, as it were. So, all right, methods of execution. Eugene Delacroix, like other artists of his day, had several methods for doing master copies, depending on his goals. One way is to create a finished facsimile, more faithful reproduction of the work. This helps the artist gain insight into the technique and working methods of the master. The underlying philosophy of this method is that when the artist lays aside his own goals and studies the master's lessons completely, he will become a more pure vessel to express himself. A second method is to create a sketched version of the original drawing. With this approach, the artist interprets the drawing, trying to capture the essence or first thought of the master artist. Ideas such as value, distribution, composition, and content are examined independently of representation and execution. Rather than concentrate on the look of the finished work, the artist focuses on his process and applying the master's lessons to his own style. By studying masterworks and making master copies, the artist learns to see through another's eyes. Emulation becomes the first step towards self-expression, and eventually the artist will begin to see in life what he has been learning to see in art. Through the study of Raphael, Jean-Augustin Dominique Ang was able to learn more fully, manifest himself, and through Caravaggio, we have Giuseppe di Ribera. Artists of all kinds are drawn to one another by their temperament, allowing themselves to be influenced and led to greater vision. When an artist submits to the practice of copying, he begins to master the art of seeing nature. And here we have, this is the end of the chapter, and this is the image I chose for the thumbnail. It's a copy done by Rubens of a Leonardo da Vinci drawing. So again, there's that nice link, right? The artist, the author of this book, copying Da Vinci. Here's Rubens copying Da Vinci. If you're not familiar with Rubens, a very famous painter. I believe Baroque era, but either way, they're these very massive tableaus is what it was called. A tableau. It's like a very big painting, altarpieces, and just big wall paintings. But they were very highly rendered, let's say, right? Very figurative. So, and Rubens had a big studio of artists that would paint much of the work, right? He was the master in the studio. He would come along and do little details and flourishes and whatnot. But again, there's a lot of history to how art gets produced. And even these people that we admire so much, they had to start somewhere. And that's, I think, a big part of what we're trying to talk about. So, yes, very good. Okay. So I wanted to draw a little bit and do a master copy. We have a few minutes. Like I was saying, if you wanted to draw along, let me see if I can't. Let me get everything hooked up here, everybody. So pull up my. There we go. Yeah, cool. All right, so here's my tablet, and let's see. Let's check the chat. Check the chat. Creature had a hard time logging into the show. We'll want to say thanks for another great episode. Thanks, Creature. Appreciate you. Again, if you have any questions, comments, we'd love to hear about it in the chat. I have my canvas all ready to go. Next, I want to pull up my reference. Right. This is an image from the Biomech Encyclopedia. I have a link to that right here. The Biomech Encyclopedia. This is a book by Guy Aitchison, and it features the work of many other tattoo artists. And it's a fantastic collection of all things Biomech inspired. So just here's just an image from it. It is full of tattoos and also paintings and other artworks that are just they're pretty mind-blowing. So you can learn more by visiting guyaitchison.com, or you can scan this QR code we've got right here, and you can check it out. On with the show here. Oh, sorry. I actually wanted to. Let me see if I can show this last bit. Hopefully. Yes. So here in the book, I jump to in the book that we were reading, there is an outline of what to think about when you're doing these master copies. Again, this is these are suggestions, but they can be it really can be helpful. So this book is really interested in life drawing and very sort of traditional drawing approach. So the recommended materials may vary from what you want to do. We're going to be using digital tablet today, but of course you could always use some of these things: fine charcoal pencils, smooth drawing paper, so on and so forth, kneaded eraser, chamois, newsprint, tracing paper, plumb line. There's all sorts of things you can use, and many of the tools that we have available to us digitally, right? They emulate some of these other tools. So, but I really like this. I really like this example, kind of giving us sort of a step by step, as it were. So again, you're really just not getting into too many details, just blocking in, right? Just blocking in just the basic stuff, right? The biggest shapes before you get into all the rendering. Does this make sense? Again, you could probably approach this like you could probably block it in big chunks, right? You don't, you could do this a lot of different ways, but the idea is to start with the work with this sort of universal, and then go into the particulars, right? Go from this the broader shapes to the more specific ones. Okay, you could just start right here with the corner of this eye, right there, and draw the whole thing if you want. That's certainly not what is being encouraged here by this book. I also think that there's something really good about planning out the whole project and then starting to work towards a finish. But yeah, so again, you may want to approach it this way, but then again, there's a more interpretive possibility, right? So if
I
you
could
are
kind of use thumbnails to lay out the structure to try to figure out how things are relative to each other and how much space they'll take up on the canvas.
totally,
I'll do a couple thumbnails, just basic shapes to try to get that down before I hit the canvas.
yeah, no, I think that's a really great way to do it. So, but the other thing too, like you may just decide to do a more interpretive study, right? Draw something that has a bit more sort of gesture or a movement, life somehow, as it were. So these are all different, they're valid ways of approaching it, as it were. So let's see if I can jump back to this. Perfect. Okay, so I've got this painting, Guy Aitchison painting. We're gonna use this as our master copy today. I also, if you can always drop, an image like this or whatever you're going to copy. You can always drop it in as a layer, but I like this option, just having a reference. You can find that under this wrench icon, reference. It'll pop up and it'll let you put in whatever you like. So, and what's nice is that you can sort of adjust your screen size. You can move this guy around. Let's see if I can, yeah, should be able to move this. Yeah, there you go. You can move it around as needed. But okay, well, I want to just get started with it. And so again, I'm going to look for these bigger shapes. And right here, I can tell that there's this sunken orb, like right in the middle of the composition. Again, I just want to get this relationship here. We're going to have these big swooping S I'm not worried about the details yet, right? I'm just trying to kind of get the gestural character of it. It's nice if you're the composition, right? The window that you're working on, they're the same like proportion. So you can see this is basically a square shaped reference that we have. And then the canvas I'm working on is also square shaped. I think that can be really useful. So again, just you can really carefully measure this out. I mean, you could even trace it because again, that's a big part of tattoo culture and practice is we trace a lot. We copy a lot in the business, right? Especially, but if you really want to, you really want to start to compose your own images, I think this could be a really important part of learning how to do that. Finding your own voice, as it were. Okay, so I'm just blocking in, blocking.
Speaking of iPads, my iPad fund is getting very close to its goal.
That's great news.
Yes, because the fund is for the iPad, the pencil, and the Procreate
Oh,
to
cool.
get me started. So once it reaches its goal, I will be getting the good stuff.
We need to start you like a Patreon or a GoFundMe or something. Get that.
No, I got
over the
it.
hump.
I'm earning my shit, but I'll get there.
Awesome. Awesome. So like I said, there's like this sphere appears to be kind of sunken in. It's like we can see the crest of it, the edge. Right. This edge of it. And then it's slightly flatter over here. Please forgive my crude drawing here. Right. Knock it back a little bit if you want to. You can always erase, right? So we're drawing, we're not to this so precious that we can't sort of, deal with it. Okay. I feel like this is a pretty good, there's another sphere up here. This feels like a pretty good start on it. So ridge, this edge, let's see. So ridge here, sort of thinking about this dark area. And I might switch my brush, something a little bigger. There we go. And I'm just going to drop it down. Again, I'm not quite all the way down to the darkest dark yet. I'm going to reserve it. You can use different layers and stuff if you like. But what I want to do is just sort of block in the gray tones, and then I'll add a little bit of extra dark value in places. So it can accentuate certain surface details later. But I don't want to just get in there and just make it all dark, all at once. With drawing, though, of course, you can push and pull as it, right? You can actually sort of make it darker than you need, and then pull it back. But let's see how big is this. I don't think this part has to be real pretty. You know what I mean? You could probably skip that sketchy stage if you want and just jump in this way. I know Kyle likes to work like that generally, and so
Yeah,
I
it
think it
seems
could be
like
really cool.
digitally it might be better to block it in dark and then use the eraser to like add the highlights.
Yeah, you can definitely work that way. You can do that with paper too, especially if you're like using charcoal, like we
Yeah.
suggested earlier. I guess I'm not going all the way dark, so I can move a little darker, but also I know that there's areas that are going to end up becoming a little lighter. So just trying to capture the essence. I know it's dark there. It's again, you might sort of, the proportions may be off slightly, and then if you're too unforgiving with yourself, right, you could just sort of say, oh, it's ruined. I don't think so. I think this is a learning process, learning opportunity. So we're kind of thinking about how on earth it is that we can.
Yeah, I think you have to take into consideration when you're copying someone else's work, your natural way of making marks isn't their natural way of making marks. So you kind of gotta compensate for that. So it's not necessarily a mistake and it's ruined. It's just more of your natural way of making marks informed that stroke.
Yeah, no, I like that. And I feel like that's pretty much the shape. Again, you could probably argue with me a bit and say there's some inaccuracies here and there. But again, just sort of blocking it in, like blocking in what definitely this upper part here could use a bit of work. But blocking in basically what it is, this value pattern, right, between the two. And so what I would suggest is really looking carefully before I get in here and start messing around and like shading in that stuff. I really just want to determine like there's a dark side and there's a light side, so on and so forth. I'm going to continue to work on it. Kyle, could we share? Let me share yours. Let's share where you're at. Kyle's been working on this too. So here we go. Beautiful. Beautiful. So Kyle, you want to talk us through some of your process?
Right now I'm just trying to build up the shapes and distinguish the planes and stuff like that. So that way, once I get that established, then I can start really worrying about like the details and stuff. Cause like, I don't know, when you get like the planes and the form and everything kind of distinguished, everything like that, it just becomes, I don't know, just kind of super simple. It becomes easy, just kind of does it itself from there. So yeah, just playing that back and forth game.
Yeah, I think that's a really great approach. It does. It is tempting, right? And at some point, you do have to get in there and do the little details and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose I think about like for instance, if you were going to do a portrait or whatever, and you want to put that highlight in the eye, right? Or you want to do you really want to do the eyelashes or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And, it is tempting, right? You just want to go for that directly. But again, like we were talking about earlier, like being able to see the structure, that lies underneath can be a very valuable way of approaching it first, right before you get in there. That's going to support the details that you really want to accentuate, as it were.
Mm-hmm. Gotta exercise that self-control.
What do you think of this piece? I feel like there's a really deceptive simplicity to it, right? It's like it feels simple, but it's actually really quite complex.
I think the flow of it is so fun. This stuff is not typically what I would draw, but just like the flow of it is just so much fun. There's so much going on.
So who has the Biomech Encyclopedia? You got yours, Kyle?
I sure do.
Yeah. Amber, you got yours yet?
I don't have one yet, but I still have my hardback copy of Reinventing the Tattoo.
That's amazing.
I
for
bought that
sale?
years ago.
I tell the story often, but yeah, my copy that I got in 2001, it grew legs and walked away. Can you believe it?
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
It actually grew a pair of legs and just walked out of my life. It's crazy how that happens. No, I'm sure someone. Well, I hope someone still is enjoying it. You know, whoever
Yeah.
ripped
Still
me
to
off.
this day, if you want to buy a copy of that used,
Yeah.
it's a lot of money.
Oh, yeah. No, I haven't looked into how much people. I've never seen other people selling it, but no, I can only imagine.
Sorry, are you saying that yours is for sale? Is that what you're saying, Ever?
Oh,
No,
hey.
nope, never. Besides, mine's the spine is broken. That book is well used and well done.
Well loved. I believe the guy was basically having people send him in, and he would send them new copies. You know, back in the day, and I think he was just trying to get rid of those old ones. I think that's my understanding. And so now it's a digital form, and he can add new stuff as he sees. Like there's a really great chapter in there by Jason Leeser about how to use Procreate really effectively.
Mm.
I found it really helpful, to be honest. I actually learned quite a bit of new stuff that I didn't know.
I
So
love that reinventing has become this living, evolving entity from its origins at the with the book.
yes, no, it certainly has. And there's there's a whole group of us like this that get together like this. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
We're um, we're drawing together here on a Monday morning. On Monday nights, right? If you're still up, there's a subscribers group that is a lot of fun. I know that Kyle and I are often there, so that's very cool. It's led by Sandy McAndrew. Oh,
Oh yes, the
you
fund
got
to subscribe to that is almost full too. I am hoping by fall I will be able to subscribe.
that would be awesome. There's a lot, there's a lot of resource there. Not only the book, but again, there's like
Oh, I agree. It'll definitely be worth the money.
I think it's been very cool because like I've had the chance to have some of my artwork and my even some tattoos critiqued by Guy, which is I really appreciated that, like having that
I mean, you
access.
want to talk about
Not all,
learning from a master.
yeah, it's not all the time, but it's
Hmm.
certainly been very cool. But there's other too. There's other guests that come on and give us some feedback. So again,
I know
it's
Guy says often everybody goes to him for biomech, but he'd love somebody to go to him and just go, can you do me a SpongeBob sleeve? Just something different.
I, that's interesting. I haven't heard that before, but you know, maybe that's the.
I would
I don't know.
actually,
I've seen like Lord of the Rings stuff and like Star Wars stuff. So
I
so
would
you
love to
might be
go
on.
to him and go, I want an Alice in Wonderland sleeve. Just do your thing.
Might be worth a
Yeah, that
try.
fund
You never
isn't
know.
even close to being good enough yet, but it'll get there.
Yeah. Um, hey, if you're with us, you're in the chat. Feel free to drop a question. Feel free to say what's up, where you're streaming us from. We definitely love hearing from you. While we're drawing, I will throw up on the screen here. We got some upcoming events. So, Hell City. Hell City is May 17th through the 19th in Columbus, Ohio.
God, that year
Then,
went by fast.
yeah, it did. Anyway, you can also catch Hell City in Phoenix, Arizona this year. August 23rd through the 25th. Kyle, are you going to the Phoenix one?
Yeah, most definitely.
Hell yeah.
I will be there. I don't know if Reinventing is gonna have a booth there, but I'll definitely just be there for sure. So,
Sick.
you gonna make it?
I would love to. I don't know. I don't know. I won't be able to make it to Columbus this year, which is a bummer, but Jason Leeser is going to have a booth. There's going to be Art Fusion. There's going to be, I believe there's going to be Drunk Drawing again. So fun.
Nice.
So fun. So yeah, definitely Hull City is a great event. So we really appreciate Derb and the Red Tree crew, Fawn Baker.
I know, they're awesome. Unfortunately, May is a busy month for me, so there's no way I could make May. I was hoping to make August, but my cousin Mustafa is coming in from Cairo that week.
Well, that's cool
And
to
it's
see
the only
family
week
from
he's gonna be.
abroad.
What was that?
It's cool to see family from abroad, though. That's actually great.
Yeah, he's been away for a while, so. And we only really chat through Facebook or text because the international calling rates are insane.
Oh,
So I can't wait to actually talk to him.
nice. Yeah. What about this texture on this orb? Are we there yet, or is anybody?
Oh, I know.
Like, what is going on here? I saw some video of guy like he was working with, he was doing like a collaboration with Russ Abbott or something. And he was talking about they were doing some texture on something. He was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna cheesify it." I think this is that cheesification. Where he's adding the, all of the little fiddly bits and stuff.
Yeah, the kicker is trying to get all the shadows and those nooks and crannies right.
Right. Well, I think, it's just, again, that push and pull, working sort of delicately, but thinking about how the sphere is, is rendered. There's definitely a particular physics of light that's happening. So,
yeah.
But use the tools, right? I think, again, like what would have been recommended was all those, the kneaded eraser, the vine charcoal, chamois. You have these smudging tools, you have these erasers and stuff here with, if you're using a tablet. So, but each little bit is sort of rendered. So I think you'd have to approach this sphere shape like the same way you approach the whole thing, right? You'd have to basically block that in next and then start to render, right? Rather than getting too stuck on one spot and working it too much. But yeah, carefully kind of controlling the value so that way it starts to have that form, right? It maintains that form, but also gives us the surface details that we're so attracted to. It might end up becoming, as you're working through it, you might, develop a technique approach that's, kind of working for you, as it were. Kyle, I see you like reversing your canvas back and forth. I think that's a really good.
I know, it's driven me out,
really
though.
Good practice. Yeah, no, definitely, do that, everybody. I think that's it's really helpful.
It's such a great way to double check your proportions and everything like that. I do it with everything.
I put that on everything. Well, hey everybody. Also, if you're in the Columbus area in June 23rd through the 25th, check out the Tattooerpreneur Conference. It's reinventing tattoos. Focus on, it's a unique event focused on business for studio owners and tattoo artists. There's going to be workshops. There's going to be art. It's very cool. New concept. Gabe Ripley's putting it on. But again, it's going to be at Red Tree in Columbus. So you may want to set the date, right? Set the date aside and get in there. Check that out. But yeah, the Tattooerpreneur Conference, it's coming right up. Well, I'm starting to add a little bit of white. I'm using a different layer. But I'm adding a bit of white. Again, it's almost like I'm not going all the way to the brightest white right away. I'm trying to leave a little bit of room, just like we were talking about with the really dark areas, trying to leave a little bit of space for us to go darker if we needed to. But certainly sort of pushing that contrast. And remember, contrast is about difference. It's not simply light and dark, right? There's textural differences. There's shape. There's all sorts of different concepts within this idea of contrast. And again, this is a very very useful concept that's developed in Reinventing Tattoo. Check that out. I think it's something that is you're always working with it. I think trying to get a hold of it, trying to get better at the contrast. And if you are like very masterful with contrast, right? You can do it perfectly, hypothetically. Then there's some other area where you're lacking. You're always lacking somewhere. So it's good to have a network of other people that you can work with. You can get some feedback on your work, and then of course like a source of information. So I think Reinventing tries to do that. Does it really pretty well. So you can learn more about Reinventing by scanning this QR code. I know I'm hitting you up with all the code right now. But in the upper corner, upper left-hand corner, there's a QR code where you can learn more about Reinventing. Or you can visit reinventingthetattoo.com. Oh my God. Take a step back, right? Like zoom back a little bit and see it. That's what I'm doing with mine right now. I'm gonna flip my canvas too, just like Kyle's been doing. Awesome. So, anybody done any really exciting, fun tattoos lately? Anything?
I drew up a concept for a sleeve that I think is really, really fun. It's like this whole like kind of I don't know what you call it. It's not really like, I guess it's like a mechanical kind of robot-y arm type of thing, kind of Android-y. I thought was pretty cool.
Sounds awesome.
That was pretty fun. I get to do another rose upcoming Tuesday, which I'm also excited about.
Yeah, those are Those are really looking great, man. By the way,
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Definitely
I
learning
really
a
enjoyed
fuck ton.
seeing those. Seeing the
There's a
progress.
few coming up that I'm excited about. And I'd still love to find the time to finish my tattoo.
Yeah, I've seen your rose tattoos as well, Amber. They're also very nice.
I used to hate tattooing roses because I just didn't get it.
Yeah.
And then I spent 4 weeks doing nothing but roses and whip shading until I got it. Now I love doing
They
Very
are
fun.
complicated.
it. They
Drawing
are,
roses and stuff,
they're
very
so
complicated.
pretty. I mean, I can do an old school traditional rose in my sleep. My first mentor made me do that. You know the onion skin in the middle of the transfer paper?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sure.
The first thing I did as an apprentice was trace 100 traditional roses on onion paper.
Damn.
Really?
That was my first assignment, other than cleaning and painting the bathroom and the apprentice work. I had to learn to trace sufficiently, and I had to do 100 old school traditional roses on onion paper.
Damn. That is
I ripped through like 4 pieces before I started getting the hang of it. And he's like, now that you know how to not press too hard, we'll teach you, how to do the right pressure on thin skin so you don't go through the skin. And I mean, that
yeah,
was a good lesson.
yes.
It helped
And
me
it
with my
is
depth
surprising.
perception on the skin.
Hmm.
Plus, I wasn't allowed to tattoo a person until I tattooed myself.
Well, it's surprising, when, if you ever rip through a piece of paper or you start, you're working it so hard and you actually, you break through it. It doesn't, I would say like, oh, it never happens, but of course it happens, from time to
Yeah.
time. So, but yes, that would definitely be the thing that you would want to start to get a handle on, as it were. I have blocked in. I'm showing off mine a little bit. I blocked in, uh, you know, all the real basic shapes, and now I'm actually trying to fine tune, some of the sharp, dark areas. You could take it further. You could block in a little bit harder. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see what I'm attempting to do. Um, but again, I mean, you could always keep it far back and work that way. But again, I'm really just trying to now block in without being too precious about it. I'm just trying to block in this second order of detail. Right, the first one being these larger planes, and now there's a whole other universe of secondary planes that are going on here. So
Mm.
again, trying not to get too finicky with the details, but just start to go after that. I think another thing that drawing from life, or using a reference or putting it back and sketching from it, what it can help with is when you're tattooing and you're using a reference.
Mm.
You are trying your best to sort of um, emulate the thing uh, that your reference, right? You want your tattoo to look at that reference, um, and there's going to be a point where the stencil's pretty much gone, and
Yeah.
in your reference that you're using might be very complicated. So anyway, it might very well be really useful to end up, having practice a little bit of some of these techniques, putting in your reps, as it were, where you end up you end up, sort of stretching your capacity, right? Getting out of your comfort zone and doing, making a mess, right? You got to make a little bit of a mess. Might give you the confidence to go after it a little bit later, right? To not give up, continue. And then keep reminding yourself, right? Don't go too detailed, right? Look around. It changes your perspective a little bit,
Mhm.
right? It's like we get entranced by the surface. So you just physically, you take a step back, you look in a mirror, you flip it around like that. You end up learning a little something that you didn't know. But again, just kind of making sure you're keeping the value structure in mind. We had Bruno Salvatierra last week at our Monday night drawing. It was very cool. He had a very cool project. He's an excellent tattoo artist. His tattoos are beautiful. Kyle, did you get a chance to work on your project?
I don't think I have.
Me neither. I got to though. I really want to. I really want to try to, work on it. It was a fun project. Let's go a little bit lighter. Add a little bit of light. Oh, a little bigger than that, please.
Yeah, hopefully I can put a couple hours into it today, but we will see.
I do find myself kind of jumping around, going here, going there,
I
rather
was just
than
thinking
being,
the same thing. I am too.
like super methodical. I feel like in this instance that might be a good thing. Again, there would definitely be a point where you'd really want to, buckle down and focus on one spot, as it were. But I think in this block-in stage, you're pretty much probably a lot more effective to really just go where you feel like it's needed. Kind of assess, you go back, you know what I mean? I'm looking at this area. Looking at this area here. It's like it's so different than that. It's so different from the reference. And that's okay. It really is. We could always, let me look. Maybe could always liquefy it a little bit. A little bigger. There. It can be difficult to do that with, with traditional media. Before you know it, though, you've really distorted everything like crazy. But whatever. There's there are all these tools to check out, so don't be afraid of them. But again, returning to paper and pencil, I think that's a really useful practice as well. Kyle, we're gonna check you out again. Sick.
Yeah, you guys are definitely further along than I am pushing a pencil.
Well, we started off,
But they both
you
look
know,
great.
yeah, it looks awesome. We started off, well, I mean, you know, like we started off with just locking it in and then slowly getting to the details. But again, I have to keep reminding myself to, you know, to just, you know, slow down and take my time, keep locking in. That might be a part of this push and pull. You know, you really kind of you go a little bit too detailed, then you knock that down. You know, you have to sort of kill that little precious thing. But yeah, but is there like you know, is there like a brightest bright in here? You know, like
I'm not really seeing like any like white.
right.
Like maybe over here in this area,
Mm-hmm.
and then like tiny little bits here and there. But like even that's just like, you know, maybe like I don't know if it's just like the picture reflection or whatever there, but like up in that area seems like there's quite a bit of, you know, white up there, but I just don't see any like
In
white, which is cool.
yeah, in the image, because there's only so much I can do to share it with y'all.
Oh
But in
yeah.
the image, it definitely goes darker to the lower right hand corner.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like in my reproduction of this image, there's a little bit of glare. There's some surface that popped up on it. There's some little highlights and stuff on it. So I again, it depends on the like we read in the chapter. You might sort of find that for the artist, that all that stuff was real important. You know what I mean? Like that's what they were going for to some degree. And if that's the case, then you may want to include that stuff. But you know, the option is always there to make it, you know, more of an exploration of their, you know, their expressive qualities and whatnot. All right. Well, just like we do on Monday nights, right? We have a timer, right? We time it out because again, I think that's another useful way to go about your drawing practice. Keep a timer going on. Time yourself. I think it professionalizes you to a certain degree. You may choose to go a little longer, but like having some constraint really does. I think it really does help.
If I start up or work on a project after 8 o'clock, I have to do that.
Yeah. No,
Because
exactly.
8 p.m. turns into 3 a.m. real quick.
I definitely have been there. I definitely understand that. All right, so yeah, Kyle, beautiful. I'm just looking at yours right now. Very nicely handled. I really like
Yes.
the things you're doing right there. You're, you know, especially on that lower ridge. You got those little highlights, or the, you know, I guess rather the, this, there's some sort of like all these little bits, all these little rounded spots. They're all embedded into the surface, right? That's the information I feel like that I'm getting from it. Each one of these little things is sunken in. It's just protruding out a little bit. And so, you know, how do you capture that? And it just takes take some careful observation. It's very nice, very nicely handled. I'll share mine with you, show you where I'm at. Yeah, needs some work. Does need some work.
Oh, that's great, dude.
Thank you. But I think too, just take a step back, maybe maybe with a little bit of some time, because that can be a really important factor too, right? You can do things one go, right? But like having a little bit of time between, that can also be really useful as well. So take a step back, come to it later. Amber, are you able to share yours? Did you wanna?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Let me.
Obviously, I didn't get as far, but
No problem. Here, I'll make you.
Okay.
Maximize you. Wonderful.
can you see it?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Very
Obviously,
nice.
I'm doing a lot of cross hatching so that everything doesn't look all bubbly, but I'm kind of going out from the middle, but in this space first.
Cool. Well, definitely can see some of the blocking going on, and also I like how rounded the center, that sphere looks like in the center. It's very rounded looking. So
Yeah, it took me a minute.
that's very successful. Yeah, cool. And done on paper as well. So it's nice to see that. It really is.
Thank you.
Of course. Well, we're going to close up today's drawing stream. I hope you had a good time, everybody. It was fun getting to get warmed up, get stretched out. And of course, we read a really fun chapter in a book. I think art books and reading, really important. Feeding your artistic being. Again, we talked about this on another show that like art doesn't have to be understood by philosophy, as it were. It just needs to be free to pursue its own ends. So I hope that you, of course, give yourself the permission to pursue the things you're interested in. Stay interested in those things that interest you, and always keep drawing. It's really important. Even if you're not a professional artist, I still think that there's something really valuable about drawing itself. So if you're here watching us, you obviously do too. So don't just consume, right? Be active. Actively take a role. Draw the stuff that you feel like there should be more of in the world. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to know what to draw all the time, and so that's why I think that having community of others can be really valuable to help keep you motivated, to help keep you inspired to keep working on your craft, right, and your approach. So anyway, let's sign off, everybody. Amber, where can we find you? Where can we learn more about you?
You can find me on all social media platforms under Amber White.
Terrific. Amber, it's been a while since I got a chance to see you, so it's so wonderful to catch up.
It's
Love
good to
your
be
drawing
back.
today.
Things have just been super busy.
I loved your drawing today, and thanks for all of
Thank you. Thank you for
the great
hosting. I
conversation.
appreciate it.
Of course. No, it's well, we couldn't do it without everybody that is a part of this, right? So so everybody that watches, and then everybody that hops on here, our guests. Of course, Gabe. Thank you, Gabe. We really appreciate everything
Thank
that you
you,
do behind
Gabe.
the scenes. Thanks, Gabe. And then also Guy Atchison, founder and inspiration behind the Read by Team community. We want to say thank you for giving us this space. We really appreciate it. And of course, the Monday night group is always open to those interested. I think you can sign up. There's specific times that you can sign up, so consider it. And also, the Reinventing the Tattoo book. Very, very important book to the history of tattooing. It will be. I think it will be recognized as a seminal text in the development of contemporary tattoo. So, Kyle, thank you so much for coming. It was great to draw along with you and to conversate with you. Where can we find you at, Kyle?
It's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure, James. Always fun. If you want to get a hold of me, more than welcome to head on over to Instagram at Olson_tattoos, SOLSON_tattoos. And you can also reach out and get a hold of me at trinityartcollective.com. And I'm more than happy to talk tattoos with anybody or anything. So, yeah, it's always fun, James. It's always a good Monday morning to be able to draw, talk art, philosophy, all that fun stuff. And I greatly appreciate you doing this for everybody. So,
Kyle, Amber, thank you both so much. Really, I appreciate you coming on today, as always. And so, thank you out there. I can see there's some people watching. People catch it on the replays too. It's amazing that we have this. So I'm happy to do it. I'm happy that anybody watches, because otherwise I'd just be sketching and reading and stuff anyway. So, so I'm really heartened by that other people are interested in it too. So anyway, thank you everybody. And I'm James. You can find me at Tattooing Wisdom on the internet. This has been Drawing for Tattooers on Guy Addison Reinventing the Tattoo Network. Join us next week. And until then, happy drawing, and we'll see you all next stream.